Does it seem like you never have enough time for yourself? Do you seem to get overwhelmed with everything going on in your life? With your business, family, and the craziness of life adding up, it feels like the more we get done, the more there is to do. And it all comes back to how we manage our time. In this video, I'll teach you some of the best time management strategies to reclaim your time and do more of what you enjoy. So what does taking time for yourself mean? What I mean by time for yourself is really time alone. Setting aside time for yourself means you can do what you want and not what others want you to do or what others think you should be doing. Although it's a simple self-care practice, many people find it difficult to implement. The one other thing that I want to note, especially with entrepreneurs or people that have a very strong vocation in what they do for a living, there isn't a clear line between work and life balance. In these cases, what you do for work is intrinsically tied to who you are as a person. I might do an entire video on that because I could go on forever, but just know that there isn't always a clear line between work and personal life. So let me address the workaholics. And I don't know about you, but I'm very guilty of this. When driven people take time for themselves, they might get the feeling to be productive instead. But over time, you can practice the habit of truly taking time for yourself and just allowing yourself to be without always doing. Ultimately, taking time for yourself is a form of productivity. Once you can understand that, the doors to stress-free productivity start unlocking. So you might ask, why is taking time for yourself important? And why that might be self-evident. If you can't actually define an answer, that's something that we really need to address. Now that we know what making time for yourself means, we have to answer, why is it even important? And part of why it's important is because it's practice self-reflection and self-awareness. Let's say we're go and things are going great, and then all of a sudden the entire world is falling apart. Then you say to yourself, if only I took some time to reflect, I could have avoided this altogether. And if I had the time to process some of my thoughts or feelings I had, this outcome would have been completely different. Ultimately, taking time for yourself can change the outcomes in your life. Part of taking time for yourself is that you have the time to learn about yourself and what you actually need. For example, you can learn what you need to be happy, what you need to be successful, and what you need to be ultimately fulfilled. Some research suggests that time alone can also help you experience both freedom to think and creativity. And that's why I use a creativity system in Trello. So when there are like 100 things to do, I don't have 100 things to remember. And understand the difference there. 100 things to do is not 100 things to remember. And that makes my life a lot less overwhelming. Which translates to when I do take time to myself, my mind isn't preoccupied with other things I have to do or remember. And I can actually spend time and focus on myself. Now that we know what time for ourselves is and why we should take time for ourselves, let's get into the tips where we finally make time work for you. Tip number 1 is set clear goals. In today's day, with everything being fast-paced and digital and social media, and you're getting pulled in 1,000 different directions, if we don't have a goal to lead us in a certain direction, we're going to end up doing a lot of things that don't matter or are a complete waste of time. Ultimately leaving you with a list of things that you wanted to do, but you didn't get done because you ran out of time. So we have to set clear goals. And one thing you have to remember is accept that you can't do everything. As many new ideas we get on a daily basis or weekly basis, there's no possible way to get everything done. Once your time and bandwidth is maxed out, you have to prioritize what is worth spending your time on. So we'll kind of break this down into some mini steps. There are a few mini steps, and mini step number 1 is write down all of your goals and ideas. So here's where you can start to take action. So grab a piece of paper or open a Google Doc and sit down and write your goals and things you want to accomplish down on the sheet. Make a long list and anything goes here. Long-term goals, short-term goals, career goals, personal goals, health goals, just get it all out there. The next mini step is figure out your top 3 goals. Now circle the ones that mean the most to you, but you only get to circle your big 3 goals. You might say, Karl, I have 15 to 30 goals. How could I possibly only break it down to 3? And that's fine. You're gonna have to prioritize and pick the top 3 that are most relevant and most important to you now. Mini step 3, put the other goals that you're not doing on a maybe someday list to revisit later. This could be one of the most important things on this video. And yes, it's the list of things that you're not gonna do right away. And it's extremely important. Once you have your top 3 goals, go ahead and save that list of the other goals And I like to call it, again, a maybe someday list, but it's really just an incubation list. The massive benefit of this list is that as you see new things that you want to accomplish or things that you want to do that don't directly impact your big 3 goals, these ideas are going to go right into this maybe someday list. And that is one of the keys to stress-free productivity. Putting these ideas that don't directly correlate to your big 3 is like gone but not forgotten. That's what I like to call them. So gone as they're not on your plate anymore or in your mind. And why are they not forgotten? Because we'll revisit this maybe someday list of ideas later on. Now, some of these you might end up doing down the line, and others may sit on the list for a year, and when you go to set new goals, they may no longer be relevant. Another hidden benefit of doing this is next time you go to set goals, you're not starting from scratch. So now you can go ahead and put away that maybe someday list in a safe place and pull out your big 3 goals. Lock in on your big 3 goals. Now that you have your big 3 list that you're committing to, it's time to lock in on those. Each week, you're gonna need to set some type of time aside to work on your goals. You're gonna have to estimate how long it's gonna take to achieve these goals and block out appropriate time each week. You can't lock in on a goal if you don't make time for it. And that leads me to my second tip. Tip number 2, block your time. Take a look at your calendar. Where are you spending time for yourself and where are you wasting time? The whole goal here is to avoid time wasters. So if you find any gaps of time where it seems like you're wasting time, where you could be spending time for yourself, make sure you eliminate that. Time blocking your calendar might be the best bet in this case. And I have an entire video on time blocking and I'll link it in the description below and I'll also add a card up here. So take a critical look at your calendar, and yes, it might require you to change up your routine. And I know it's hard because we're all creatures of habit, and there might be some friction in removing things or like moving things around. But if nothing changes, then nothing changes. So don't be scared to try out a few things and move a few things around. The worst case scenario is if it doesn't work, you can always change it back. But if you're time blocking your time and you still can't seem to get time for yourself, it's a good idea to do a time audit or a time log. It's no different than tracking your food if you're looking to lose weight or tracking your spending if you're looking to save money. Make a time log and write down everything you do for a few days. It might be a slight pain at first to do, but it can absolutely unlock your schedule and allow you to add time for yourself. Once you've logged all of your time, take a second to look back and analyze your schedule. See if there's any inefficiencies, any wasted time, and remove that time from the calendar. Tip number 3, set boundaries. The time for work, our families, and everything else is ever growing. And at some point, you have to draw a line in the sand if you ever want to make time for yourself. You have to set boundaries on your time because, again, time is finite. We only have so much of it. Some of the simple examples of setting boundaries are setting a hard stop at work and actually leaving on time for once, or limiting the amount of time you work on projects for those perfectionists out there. You also have to learn to say no to others, which isn't always easy, but if you don't, you'll end up running into something I call generosity burnout. People are going to want your time and attention, and they might not know that you're actually running on empty, or maybe you just never have a minute for yourself. And that's no one's fault. You just have to say no. And I get it. Many of you struggle to establish boundaries. You might be held back by dreading you're going to be upsetting people, or maybe the fear of conflict. But remember, in order to be the best version of yourself, you need time for yourself. And for those reasons alone, your boundaries are not selfish or arrogant. So take the time to set your boundaries and don't think about it twice. So question of the day, and this is a 2-part question. Now that you're saying no to things and setting boundaries, tell me one thing that you're gonna say no to and one new boundary that you're gonna set. Put it in the comment section below. I'll leave mine in the comments too. I'm interested to see what you guys are taking away from this video so far. Number 4, delegate. Delegating tasks to free up time can be a nice way to carve out some extra time for yourself. In some cases, if you have the money, you can outsource or hire people to do tasks for you. You can have your groceries delivered. If you don't like to cook, you can have a meal service that delivers your meals. And yes, I understand there's some costs associated with this, and you may or may not have the resources right now, but there are some other free solutions for you. For example, in business, there are different softwares that can help you automate tasks, or email autoresponders that can help save time that can be better spent on yourself. If you have a team, then consider delegating some of those things to them, and you can get rid of these massive time sucks that are eating away at your personal time. Now, for my perfectionist, I didn't forget about you guys. For those people that are perfectionists that have to do everything themselves, and then they just justify it as they're pursuing excellence or they want to be the best version of themselves, you are human. You can't do everything yourself. You can't be scared to ask for help or have someone else take the keys to the project. Find ways to offload work by delegating and automating. Tip number 5, eliminate distractions and interruptions. Two of the biggest time wasters that will eat into your personal time are distractions and interruptions. We can start by clearing up your environments, and we really want to do here is create a great work environment to be productive in. In the case of a home office, you need to clear out clutter and organize the mess. At the end of the workday, take time to do a shutdown routine and reset your workplace to neutral. This will allow you to get in and out of work and transition into time for yourself. The office must be optimized for one task and one task only, and that's work. Each space of your environment needs to be defined, and each space has a different purpose. In your house, you might have a home office for work, a man cave or living room for watching movies or sports, and then you might have a garage or basement gym for working out, and so on and so forth. And as you can see, each space has a defined purpose. Another way to eliminate distractions is turning off notifications on your phone. During your time alone, you can silence your phone or turn off notifications and actually protect the time you have set aside for yourself. There's nothing worse than scheduling time for yourself only to get dragged right back into things for others. In this case, you have to create some type of separation between you and everything else that's going on in the world. Tip number 6, schedule protected time. So what is protected time? It's actually just time for yourself, but the naming here matters. Time for yourself only happens when you protect it, hence why we have boundaries and all the other tips I mentioned. But if it doesn't get scheduled, then it doesn't happen. Ideally, your protected time should be time where there's no activities planned or it's very loosely planned. And I know the hardcore planners out there are going to cringe at this, but the activities you end up doing during your protected time should be the ones that give you energy and allow you to relax and recharge. Some examples could be going for a walk, getting a massage, getting in some light physical activity, maybe you're reading a book, listening to a podcast, or just relaxing and doing nothing. Scheduling your protected time is also a nice mental trick for people that operate completely off a calendar. So if you're one of those people who have to follow your calendar to a T, this is a great tip for you. Now, it might sound simple, but I know it's far from easy. One problem here is that people that have guilt just for putting on time for themselves on the calendar. So you have to question your guilt. Ask yourself, why are you feeling guilty for taking time for yourself? From there, see what comes up and address those reasons. As you can see, there's a lot of internal work going on here. And the objective here is to try to achieve a reframing of your perception of time for yourself. Once you can reach that place mentally, you'll understand that time for yourself is valued. And remember, making time for yourself is not only important, but it shouldn't be seen as a luxury. It should be a norm. So now it's time to put all these tips into play in your life. You have to trust me here that carving out time for yourself can have some of the biggest return on investments of any time spent. Until next time, stay productive.